Hello, my name is Sebastian Bartlett, also known as Sebastian1314 on my DeviantArt page and a few others. And I have created a game called Phong. Right now this is only the engine, but it will expand and I'll add more things to it as I go along. Now, that being said, it's only the engine, although it does have a lot of features which are necessary for Phong, such as the actual bouncing off and collision detection, and realistic physics with the collision detection as far as making it like the original goes.
Okay, quick question, Sebastian. I noticed that you're doing this in ActionScript.
Yes.
Which is a technology...
ActionScript 2.
ActionScript 2, which is a technology closely associated with Flash.
Flash,
Adobe,
yes.
Adobe
It's
Flash.
based on EMCA script, and it's very... ActionScript 3, more than anything, is very similar to JavaScript.
Okay.
Which we haven't touched much upon.
Okay, now JavaScript, guys, as you know, is also an interpreted language, just like Java. What would you say, after having studied Java in class, after having done Greenfoot, and after having looked at ActionScript, what would you say is the major one advantage of JavaScript of ActionScript over Java, and one disadvantage?
So the one advantage, which I can't show here, really quickly, I'm just going to mention this because I think it's important. This is not really, you're not getting a full sense of it. I will go home and do a screencast where you can get a full sense of it,
right,
because this is a free compiler.
Right.
If you can't get the Flash CS5, or I would personally recommend trying one of the educational versions, because they do have the educational versions if you're interested, which can be discounted up to, like, I don't know, $200 less.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go with CS5. You can go with CS2. Which
Okay.
still supports, I think, Flash and ActionScript 3. So this is called Flash Develop, and it's free. You can download it. So you can't see. Normally, you have a stage right here. You have your perhaps with black is better. You have normally your timeline here, which for animations you have your layers. So each one of the objects is in a different layer, and you have your keyframes here. And a common Flash method is called go to and play, which skips in the timeline. It skips. So that's, and then here the most important part is, which is what pertains, is that here I can drag and drop from my library, which is the library is right here in the sidebar. And also depends on how you have your setup. This is how mine is set up. It's very closely similar to the original setup.
Okay, so from what I understand here, you can have different objects all on a timeline, and you can have them interact with each other.
Yes.
And you can actually program.
Native threading. You don't have to even mention threads. You don't have to do anything.
Okay, that's an extremely important.
That is a good thing about it.
Okay.
So you can also put code in the timeline itself.
Right.
So it's very complex because you can have objects. They're called symbols. They're called symbols, which are objects. You can have symbols inside symbols. Symbolception, yo dog.
Yeah, you can have like
symbols
inside symbols of symbols. You can have like an arm symbol inside a body symbol.
Yes, and I actually use the symbols inside symbols. What Darian was asking, you'll see later on, I have the paddle, and then inside is an exact same paddle, okay, but it has a glow around it. So by default, this symbol is hidden.
Right.
But then if the player presses 6, it turns it on, along with all the other glow layers.
I noticed that. What were you going to say, Darian?
You mentioned native threading. How does that compare to the threading in Java and other object-oriented?
Java,
Outstanding
you
question.
have to do thread, my thread equals new thread or whatever. This support is natively because you know how you have the little slider in Greenfoot, which has the act. Okay, here it's the same thing. One of the things, going back to your original question, which I will address. This is just, you have to have some base first to understand it.
Right.
The act in Greenfoot is, I'm just going to close this because it's getting a bit messy. The act, act equals, this is the Greenfoot equivalent, and this is ActionScript 2. Very important to note, because ActionScript 3, I've been meaning to get into it, it's just a lot more complicated, but it is a lot more powerful. This is an ActionScript 2, but I really do want to get an ActionScript 3, and I've been looking at some tutorials. But in ActionScript 2, act is function on enter frame. On enter frame. So you'll see that later on. So on on enter frame allows the threading apps to happen because you set your frames per second. It's like that bar, except you actually have a numerical value associated with it, which you're recommended to do 30 frames per second for most games because it's not too fast, not too slow.
Right.
And you'll also see how with ticks you can actually correspond those to real time, unlike Greenfoot, because Greenfoot you don't know exactly what I'm sure there's a way to figure it out, but you don't know exact frames per second. Plus you can even enable it so that the user moves it.
Right.
So you'll see later on when I have sounds playing, I have this set as 30 frames per second, so I have a tick counter at 60. So each time it goes, it increases the tick counter, and when it reaches 60, you can play another sound. So basically what that does is that it allows me to wait 2 seconds efficiently. Each time it'll be 2 seconds, no variables. So that's threading. Each one has an on-enter frame. I'm pretty sure there's also an on-exit frame, although I've never really used it. And then there's on-load, which is a constructor, pretty much.
Now,
Back to your original question, though.
yeah.
So I've discussed some of the good things about it, like on-enter frame. It is vector, so that's really good about it. But like Greenfoot and Java, like Flash is very good for making short games that you can make available to the world.
Yeah.
There are some commercial games like VVVVV, which is an extremely good game, very high up on my list, and Machinarium, which I've heard about, haven't really played it at all. But the problem is that you download a program called the decompiler, and I've tried it myself at 11 tonight when I was just like publishing it. I actually tried doing a decompiler. I got the full source code, full, exactly as I typed it. That's pretty scary.
Like you can
That's pretty
literally.
scary.
Well, then again, no. Some websites like Congregate and like
Congregate, yes.
Newgrounds, they
Most
secure
definitely.
it.
Most
They
definitely need
secure it
upload
so
to
you can't
Congregate.
get you can't deep.
Yes.
You can't.
And then you also have obfuscators.
Another disadvantage in my opinion, of scripting languages in general is that you need HTML to run it, unlike Java and other or
No, false.
You don't,
False.
you don't
Yes.
need HTML.
I mean, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of JavaScript. I'm very sorry.
So
But
we
in
have
Flash,
third
you need a web browser, correct?
No, you don't.
No, false.
You can run it.
You can
as
run
a, you can run it as a flat like.
Really?
Right here.
You never
Look.
Can you show us right now?
Have
how
you
to
never
run it
played
Yes.
inside of it?
It's called a, I forget the name. Yeah,
An
it's
FLV.
Yeah.
not really an FLV. When you have in the real Flash, you have a thing called publish, which you can select as a Flash file, FLA, which FLA is like .java. It's the source.
Right.
.swf, which is .class. It's
Right.
like the compile thing.
Right.
Also, I know there's programs out there that you can get that allow you to turn it into an exe.
Yes, no, it comes built
Really?
in.
It's like a
.exe, yeah. Projector,
It
yes, thank
It
you.
used to be called Macromedia Projector.
There
Yes,
we go.
thank
And
you.
then there are certain programs that you, like for
Right here.
example, simulations, tutorials. Even tutorials that will show you how to program, a lot of those are done using SWF executables.
No, don't-
And that's very similar to a jar file in Java,
Yeah.
where you don't
seems
really need to
like
run it
Yes,
in a web
yes,
browser.
it's almost exactly like a jar file. If you open up in Mac, at least, I'm not sure how you do it in Windows, but in Mac, if you right-click it and select C contents or whatever,
Yeah.
you do see the original SWF file in there.
Right.
So a major problem with it is that you only really use it for short games, although it is pretty powerful. You can make very big games with it, especially in
There
ActionScript
are
3.
huge games on
Yeah,
on big
there
websites
is.
like Newgrounds and Congregate.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have just one last question, Sebastian, then I'll let you continue your presentation. If Flash is so good and powerful, why has it been why doesn't the iPhone and iPad support it?
Well, iPhone and iPhone, that goes back to the basic problem with the touch screen. How the viewers in real life will see here, but the viewers that
Have a
see this
keyboard
later
and mouse.
can imagine my hand hovering over the smart board. Okay, so my hand is hovering over the smart board, but I'm not clicking anything. So
Right.
therefore, there's no such thing as on mouse enter. You
Right.
see, imagine that I'm moving my hand into this here
Right.
here thing. In Flash, that would trigger an action.
Right.
With an iPad and stuff, you actually need to drag and click. I think that's a major problem. Now, why Steve Jobs wanted to get rid of Flash and everything and move on to HTML5
I know
is
that.
beyond me. Go ahead.
The reason being is it's easier to, one of the main ideas that Steve Jobs had behind OS X and such was security.
Oh.
Right,
yeah.
that's the
You
problem.
hear them always bragging, oh, we don't get viruses.
Of
Yeah,
course.
because you don't run executables, you don't run Flash.
Yes.
Nobody's going to make a dump raw that's a DMG file
a
that's going to
DMG.
crash your computer.
Of
It's not
course.
going to be that
can't.
easy.
You can't.
And but
There's security.
the argument is they could integrate the two, and they could make a secure way of running Flash.
Yeah,
But
they could.
the main issue is the reason why Apple doesn't adapt to Flash, rather than rejecting it as they do. You can't run it the same way you do on Windows.
Of course.
Is pure commercialism.
Yeah, it's pretty much just because it's
That's
proprietary.
really the only. As a code, you're talking about how with Flash, yeah, a lot of games do require you to move the mouse around, and that's
Yeah.
a feature, but that's not necessarily required. Other games are
Right,
point and
of
click.
course.
So the touchscreen technology can be easily integrated into Flash
Yes.
with a package or two.
Very, very easily.
And you
So
can
the
easily
main
fact of
problem
the matter
goes
is,
down, yeah.
they
While
could
your
be
point is
fully
valid,
paid.
honestly, I think it's predominantly commercial.
Yeah,
Fully
it's
paid.
proprietary.
Yeah.
It's because
Also, they could just make an attachment for the iPhone that
Yes.
has like a thumb pad and a keyboard.
perhaps yes. Now, an important thing to note is that I was previously unaware of this. September 2020. Wow. September 2010. I'm speaking too fast, aren't I? September 2010. Apple released their restrictions. So
Yeah,
now
you
in the
can
real
use-
Flash, you can make an iPhone.
Yeah,
app
I was
on
about to
Flash.
mention that because I was looking into that. You can make iPhone apps now on
Yes,
Flash,
now
and
you
I was
can.
wondering how that would.
But you need
No,
to
but they're
implement
framed on OS X technology though.
What?
Yeah, you need
pretty
to.
much have to make an applet within OS X technology.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can make it with an
You
Xcode.
can't just be like, oh, Flash and put it on an
Yeah,
iPhone.
you can integrate. You can integrate
Of course.
Flash into
You have, to make
Xcode.
you have to make an iPhone if you want to make a Flash game on iPhone.
You have to
You have to
make
make-
Xcode.
You have to make an iPhone application and import a Flash game.
Yeah.
Felipe.
Right.
But
But
actually,
get it.
I read another
Guys,
thing.
guys.
You can
I
implement
get it.
One
I
at
get
a
it.
time.
Sorry.
You
That
you
is the
can
point.
now implement Flash through Xcode, which is the main
Right.
which is the
Yeah.
Apple given.
Okay, Darren, one last thing and then go ahead.
Yes.
And that's what
But also, with relating back to the Flash on the iPhone, it allows you to program for on Windows for the iPhone. That's what I've heard, as well.
Oh, perhaps yes.
Yes, and that's a
Okay.
big empowerment.
Now, one really quick thing to note is that I was talking about it earlier. I really don't see what other standard there is because Java is really nice, although applets can start to become convoluted if you have very large files.
Right.
The problem is that HTML5 is not at its maximum capacity right now, and as everyone's still learning how to do it. There's not many tutorials. Whereas Flash, you can literally see hundreds of
Oh yeah,
tutorials
right.
on how to make a game. So that's the problem. I really don't see how they plan on taking Flash away because it's the only custom multimedia standard left, really.
Right.
That's useful, and pretty much anyone can do it. I would say this ActionScript 2, for very basic games, is easier than Robot C. I'd say.
And same thing with Java.
But you do need to have object-oriented programming knowledge, so that's
Right.
probably biased. on that
Yeah,
part.
that you
Everybody's-
need to know the logic of it.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about how Java might be discontinued in the near future, but with
Well-
all the billions of devices that
Yeah.
run on Java
Yeah.
and micro edition and
Also,
You
for
know, that's the
applications like the
Evolution of
bullying app I
programming,
did,
That's why.
yeah.
the bullying app I did, fabulous Java. I was thinking about it. I
Fabulous.
would not have. I wouldn't. Java's not my number one choice for having applications
Right.
because it's like Flash, where it's multi-platform. Devices can run it, like Android. For apps, Java is the way to go.
All right, show us a little bit of the
The
code.
code.
Show us a little bit of the code, Sebastian,
Yes.
that you use for this
So-
game.
The thing to note here is that I can perhaps show it here.
It's all symbol based.
Yes, it is all symbol based. But the thing is, maybe I can.
It resizes with the window.
Yeah, no, that's not it. There's a pixel right here, which is 10 by 10 large, so I can see it and click it and modify it, called the game controller. It's very small in comparison to everything else. It's like a microchip,
Yeah.
okay? And it's off the screen, so you can't see it, because why would you want to see a white pixel?
Yeah, a little
off
thing,
the screen?
right.
So this pretty much controls everything. It's like, it makes sure everything is working properly. And then inside you have paddle and ball, which, I'm just, moving that around. Paddle and ball, which do their own thing. So they have their own actions, but game controller control them. Hence, it's a game controller.
Right.
So you import Flash filters, glow filter. In Flash, you rarely have to import things as far as like when at this point with the level of programming I'm at, except for yes, you guys are mentioning symbol based. I'll get into that later.
I was explaining that he was asking why you need to use a pixel
For the
and
microcontroller.
You made
Right.
you made the pixel symbol, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
then you attach
Movie
all the
clip.
coding to the symbol.
Of
instead
course.
Of like standalone code.
Of course.
Like
You
so
can
I
code on the
thought
timeline, like I mentioned earlier, but it's highly frowned upon because you don't have any control on it.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
And now you can accidentally run go to and run 3, and your whole application crashes because you have a code that's based on go to and run 2,
Right.
but it didn't call go to and run 2, so 3 can't do anything, and it crashes.
Show us on load. Show us what happens.
On load. Right, but
Bunch of strings going to different,
yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about one of the things that's bad about Flash is its power itself, because you have so much multi-threading that it can get confusing. That's why
Yeah.
you need to have self-discipline and tell yourself, no, I'm not going to code on the sideline. So that's movie clip. Movie clips are anything that moves that can have code in it, right? Class game controller extends movie clip. And here, the thing is that you have less types in ActionScript 2. You have type number, type string, and then I think there's another one. I know a number does have int, but really, var is a dynamic variable. Var world height, world width. These I could put colon number, as you'll see later on here. Oh, boolean. That was the other one. Boolean. As you can see later on here, these are all booleans, and that's how you declare that it's a boolean with the colon. So you all declare them as variables because there are, and then you have boolean. And then I think there's also const, but I haven't really used that much, even though these would be constant. So that's a little bit on variables.
It does.
A variable
world,
can be any complex object.
world width doesn't have a default.
It does.
value.
It does. You'll
It's
see
in the
on load.
settings, though.
The thing is that here's on load. The thing is that we haven't gotten to on load yet,
Okay.
which I want to. So world width, world height, those are 640 by 480. That's the size
And
of
they're
the screen.
preset. They're preset into ActionScript 2 when you create the Flash game.
Ah.
And then you
Also-
can just change it later on.
Also, something really quickly I want to say to whoever's going to watch this: the most important thing is to never give up on anything. You will start off with very simple games. You see like you see these amazing games like, whoa, how do I do this? This is insane. I can never do this. But trust me, you'll see. I don't know how big this is. But it's very it's very not convoluted. It's very complex. It's like 220 lines. Okay, I thought it would end up to be 20 lines. Then you just keep adding methods and you keep adding complexity. So never give up. You can see these amazing games, but you really do need to start somewhere.